We are going to build end-to-end LLM project where we will use LangChain, Hugging Face, Streamlit and Google Palm model. The use case we are solving is for a real e-learning company. We have not used any toy dataset here. That company is my own company, CodeBasics. We have this CodeBasics.io platform which has many data related courses with more than 20,000 students. Now these existing students or a person who wants to buy the course, they will have questions related to courses, fees, etc. And we will build a Q&A system where they can type the question and they will get the answer. The project will be great for your resume as well as for your learning. So let's begin. Let's check project requirements. CodeBasics.io is a platform which has multiple courses. And before a person buys the course or even after buying the courses, they might have some questions. For that, they send an email. We have a specific email where they can send inquiries such as what is the refund policy and what is the validity of the course, etc. Or even after enrolling in the course, they will have different type of questions. And these emails that I'm showing you are real emails. We have more than 20,000 paid students, and if you include free courses, we have more than 180,000 students. So this is a real company, real data set. We also have a Discord server for our courses where people can ask questions on variety of topics. For example, I'm showing you this Excel chat where people will ask questions related to Excel course. There is Power BI channel where they'll ask questions related to Power BI, and we have a staff. These photos are the pictures of my team members, Shravani, Navin, Kiran, etc. And they help with these users' queries, and many times they get these repetitive questions. So for that, we have created this Excel file where there is question and then there is answer. So if this question comes again, they will simply copy paste the response because they don't want to type every time. Okay, so this makes sense. But the problem right now that we are facing is there is a lot of manual work involved in it. These questions are getting repeated again and again and again. And for these people, even to go to that Excel file, locate the question and copy paste is a lot of work. So we want to build a solution where our website can have this kind of ask question button. Upon clicking that, this kind of interface opens where a person can type in a question and it will give an answer. Okay, let's say you have a JavaScript course. No, we don't have it. So it will say you don't have the JavaScript course. Mac computer, can I use Power BI? So it will be a smart system which will just answer these questions. Now let's look at some of the existing questions that we have in our CSV file. For example, we have these two questions. And if a person has a simple question which includes both of these questions, such as, do you guys provide internship and do you offer EMI payments? Then our system will be smart that it will look into this CSV file and it will pull both the answers and it will answer it in a single line in a very coherent fashion. So see, yes, we provide internship and we don't offer EMI payments. Let's look at this one. So these are another two questions that I have picked, and a student can have this question: what is course validity and how do I get doubt clearing? Now look at this answer. This answer is not a simple concatenation of these two individual answers that we have in our CSV file. It is a very coherent answer, as if some human is typing that answer. So you can pause this video and read it. So this system is pretty good, pretty intelligent system. And if you have a question which is not present in the CSV file, then the system will know that this question is not present. So it will just say, I don't know. We will fine tune our LLM so that we'll tell that if you don't find answer in the CSV file, just say, I don't know. All right, let's look at technical architecture now. If you're working on any LLM project, the concept that you must know before you begin is vector database, for which I have created a simple 6-minute video where I explain vector database in a very, very easy language. So pause this video right now and go watch that video because that video will be very useful in this particular project. I also created another end-to-end project with lot of details of LangChain. So if you have time, again, I know this one is a long video, but in this video, I have covered all the LangChain concepts in a pretty much in detail. So, but in this project, I will probably not go too much in detail to explain those concepts. Therefore, If you can watch this, then that will be useful as well. Now coming back to our project architecture, we have this question answer pairs. Okay, so first thing that we need to do is we need to create embedding for these. Now if you don't know what is text embedding, sentence embedding, again go to YouTube, type code basics embedding. You will find I think 3 or 4 videos where I have explained embeddings in a very easy language. Embeddings is nothing but a numeric representation of our text, and then we store this embedding into a vector database. After that, a person can come to our Q&A system and ask a question such as what is course validity and how do I get doubt clearing. This question we will first convert into embedding. So we'll create a numeric representation of this question. So I have not shown here in this presentation, but just assume that we have converted this question into another vector. Okay, and then we try to look for similar vectors. So vector database will have so many vectors related to our CSV file question answer pair, and we are trying to find similar looking question answers. Okay, so for my given question, what could be my possible answers? Okay, so that's what we try to look for, and then we will find those similar embeddings. And let's say for this question, these 2 question answer pairs are relevant. Therefore, see, it pulled those vectors. See, -6.77, 0.23. It pulled those vectors. And we'll convert these vectors into the original sentence. And then we can form a prompt. We can say, I have some question. Answer based on below text chunk. Okay. And the below text chunk will be the possible answers that we have in our CSV file. And when we give this prompt to our LLM will produce a coherent, nice looking, human readable answer. Now for this project, to load CSV file, we will use CSV loader class of LangChain. For embedding, we are going to use Hugging Face, especially instructor embeddings. Face is something that we even used in the past project for a vector database. You can use Chroma, Pinecone, variety of vector databases, and then a retrieval QA class of LangChain is something that will be used to pull the similar looking embedding vectors and to form a prompt. And for LLM, we are using Google Palm. Now for LangChain basics, I have a LangChain crash course where I covered all the basics. So if you are totally new to LangChain, I will say pause this video, go ahead and watch this crash course first. And then if you want to go into the detail and implement a project in depth, then this project will be perfect. Okay. Now let's look at Google Palm. So what is Google Palm? You all have used ChatGPT. Behind ChatGPT, there is a model called GPT-4. So GPT-4 is the LLM behind ChatGPT. And the company which built GPT-4 and obviously ChatGPT is OpenAI. Similar to OpenAI and GPT-4, there are 2 other popular LLMs in the market, Llama by Meta and Palm by Google. And both of these are free. Whereas OpenAI, GPT-4, ChatGPT is free, but then if you want to build an application and call OpenAI API to access GPT-4, that's a paid API. Whereas Google Palm is very similar to OpenAI, where you will have API key, you will call some server, and it will be free. Whereas Meta is little, I would say it's little complicated because you have to download a big model. Okay, so you have to download a huge model either in your cloud infrastructure or locally on your computer, and then you have to do inference. So therefore we are using Palm because it's easy to use. So let's generate an API key for Google Palm model now. We'll set up API key for Google Palm model now. Using your Google account credential, log into makersuite.google.com and go to get API key. Here you can create API key in your existing Google Cloud project, or you can pick a new project. So I clicked here and let me just click and just get a new API key. And when you do that, you will get this API key generated, which you can simply copy. And then you will use this in our Jupyter notebook. But before we go there, you can take a look at some of the sandbox prompts that they have. For example, text prompt. So here you can type anything and then you can just say run. So let me just summarize the paragraph. I want to summarize this paragraph. I'll run it and it will show me this particular output. And this is similar to what you will get when you're using Bard. Okay. So Bard, if you know, it's similar to ChatGPT, but it is Google's equivalent to ChatGPT and it is powered by Google Palm model. So let's say I want to request a refund, or I want to write an email. Bard will produce certain output, and you can test similar thing using this test pad. Here it is using text bison model. In the future they may create new models. You can just play with various things here. By the way, when you're creating an API key, you will get a link to API quick starter guide, and here you can call Google Palm model using Google's own Python module, which is called Google Generative AI, which you can install using pip install, and you can directly use palm.generate text and it will work. So this is like a native Google's API, but we are not going to use this module. We are going to use LangChain. So go ahead, install LangChain if you have not installed it already. If you want to install all the modules which are required for this project, you can open this requirement.txt file. See, this txt file has all these modules which we will be using in our project. And you can go to this folder and simply run pip install r requirement.txt and it will install all the modules. By the way, I'm giving all this code. Check in video description. You'll be able to download all this code. Okay. It has this faq.csv file as well. Now, I have launched a Jupyter notebook by just creating here like new text file, and from this place now I'm going to import Google Palm. So you will say from langchain.llms import Google Palm, and then LLM object is equal to Google Palm, and here you need to supply Google API key. And this API key is what I created. You can create multiple API keys, by the way. You can create API key per project, per team organization, things like that. And API key here. And there is a temperature parameter which controls the creativity. So it is between 0 and 1. If I say let's say 0.9, it will be very creative. If I say 0.1, it will be a little less creative. Okay, so I don't know what parameters to supply, so I'll just give something to it, and then I will give some sample prompt. Okay, so what do you want to give? All right, I love this food samosa, and I will ask it to write a poem for my love of samosa, and then I will print that poem. See, it's a generative model, so it will give this particular output. You can also write an email requesting refund. You can play with it. Okay, it is as good as you typing a prompt in Google Bard. Now that our LLM is set up, let's import that CSV file into our Jupyter notebook. You can import CSV loader from langchain.document loaders. I am just going to import the CSV loader class. Okay, so CSV loader, if you hit tab, it will autocomplete, and then I will create an object of this class, and here you can provide the file path. Our file name is code basics. I think our file name is this, and you can also specify the source column. So when you are doing retrieval later on, if you want to know which source column it was referring to, then you can use this particular column. Now, if you look at our CSV, I'm calling the question a prompt. I mean, you can call it question too. It's just a column name. So whatever is the column name here, I will provide that here. Okay, so it is called prompt, and then this will be my loader object, and I will say loader.load. It is very intuitive, and that will go to data. Okay, control enter, and data is loaded. I mean, you can of course see the data. It's simple. See, each question answer pair is one document object which has page content, and it has metadata where you are providing a source column. Okay, so now let me move on to the next step. So if you look at our architecture, the next step is to create embedding. Once your data is loaded, okay, all these CSV data is loaded, let's create embedding. Now there are 100 different ways of creating embedding. You can use OpenAI embedding. That is the best one in the market, but you have to pay money for it. So then you can use Google Palm embedding. You can Google search LangChain embeddings. And if you go to the documentation here, you can click on this integration. These are all the embeddings you have available. Bedrock, you have Embass, so many, you know, Hugging Face, instructor embedding. My friend works for a company as a data scientist, and they use instructor embedding because they're really good. So if you do Google search on instructor embedding, you will find their page. They have mentioned their methodology, different benchmarks and such. We are going to use instructor embedding here because I tried few and I found instructor embedding performance to be pretty good. So I will import that from LangChain again. See, from LangChain.embedding, Hugging Face instructor embedding. And you can create embedding. Let me just create a sample embedding and just kind of test it out. You can also give a model name, by the way. So model that we're giving is the large. I think if you don't give it, maybe it's a default one. So if you do Shift Tab, yeah, if you don't give it, it's a default one anyway. So it's okay if you don't give it. And then in the embedding, you can say embed query. Okay. So let's say you have a question. What is your refund policy for your courses? Okay. It will create an embedding for that and store it in this E object. So you can hit Control Enter. And then if you look at E, by the way, E is simply, it's a list. Okay. And if you look at the length of the list, 768. And if you view these numbers, it won't make sense. I mean, just bunch of random numbers. I mean, you can't make out anything when you're looking at it, but they're pretty powerful. It represents the meaning of this sentence very accurately. And if you want to try a few sentences and, compare them using cosine similarity, you can use this documentation. So I just said Hugging Face, instructor embedding, and I landed on this page. And here, so you can have sentence A, sentence B, and you can find the cosine similarity. If two sentences meaning are similar, the cosine similarity will be close to 1. And if they're irrelevant, the cosine similarity will be close to 0. I think that's it has that range. So you can try it out. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna use the default embedding, default query. I don't want to give any specific query. The way instructor embedding works, by the way, is you give instruction for the embedding. So if you look at this sentence, you have a sentence that you want to create embedding for. You will give instruction that represent this sentence as a science title. And that is the power of instructor embedding. You can give different type of instruction and it will represent it in a different way. And folks, if you are still confused about what is embedding, go to YouTube, search Code Basics Embedding. You will find a very intuitive video. So make sure your concept of embedding is clear. Now I have embeddings. My next step is to create the vector database, and I'm going to use Face. You can use Chroma like other databases as well. By the way, if you want to use Chroma, you will just say this, okay? But I'm using Face. So I will say face.from documents. When you do that, you need to specify documents here, which is my docs, this guy. And then I need to provide the embedding. So which is my embedding? Well, instruction, we'll call it instructor embedding so that it's kind of clear. Okay. And that will be my vector database, simple. Okay. It's gonna take time. So go for a coffee break. It will come back after some time. Once vector database is created, you will see, you can save it by saying, I think there is a persist method or save local. There is a method called save_local. but we don't want to save it. We'll just use it in memory. And you need to get a retriever object. So what is retriever object? Let me explain that. So I'm creating this retriever object from vector database, and the job of this object is whenever you have a question, new question, it will convert, see, we'll create an embedding of that question, and then we will pull the similar looking vectors from a vector database. See this. So retriever object is doing this process. So it takes an input question, it compares its embedding with the embeddings which are stored in a vector database, and it returns these embeddings and eventually these sentences actually. So let's see how that works. So here, if I look at the documentation of the retriever object, let's see, where is the documentation? Yes. See, you can use this method, get relevant documents. So I'm going to use that. So I will say retriever dot get relevant documents, and I will say, okay, for how long is this course valid? Sometimes people have this question, okay, what is the validity? 1 year, lifetime, what is it? And I will store that into our docs. These are relevant docs. And look at this. Once purchased, this course is available for lifetime. It is so beautiful. If you look at the exact words, they are very different. But this is not searching based on the words. This is searching based on the meaning of those words. So as a human, if I'm looking at it, how long is this course valid? I will naturally go to my CSV file and pull the answer of this question. Is this available for lifetime? Okay. You can type in different question, by the way. You can say, do you, or let's say, what is the other question? You can type in different question, folks. Okay. Go to this CSV file and just make some question, you know, like, for example, job assistance. So here, how about job placement support? The word wise is very different. And see, do you provide any job assistance? I said job placement support, and he said, do you provide job? It's pulling that relevant question which I have. So it is pretty powerful. I have imported this retrieval QA class, and that class is going to perform the last step, which is you have relevant documents. Now you will form this prompt and ask it to LLM. So let's create the object of this class. So the first parameter is obviously LLM, and we have already created LLM object. See, LLM. Okay, so I'm going to pass that LLM, and then there are a bunch of other parameters which I'm going to pass. So I'll just copy paste just to save time, and we'll explain you what they are. So here, the first one is chain type, which can be stuff or let's say map reduce. In that other video which I have for Rocky Boat, I have given a detailed explanation. So if you're interested, you can go watch it. But there are two types of chain, basically stuff and map reduce. We are going to use the stuff one. Retriever is something we already looked at. It is this particular object. Then the input key query, I will explain what that is. And return source document is when you get an answer, you also want to return the source document from that CSV file, okay, which were relevant to this answer. And here you will say chain. I explained about chains in the LangChain crash course. So once again, if you have not seen it, go ahead and see that one. Now here you have retrieval QA. Let's see. Okay, there was some typo, I think. And now we are ready to ask your question. So the first question I'm going to ask, it's actually two questions which I'll ask in one shot, which is, okay, you have internship or do you provide EMI payments? And see, it answered correctly. Yes, we provide virtual internship, and no, we don't offer EMI statement. And if you look at our CSV file right here, see, these are the two questions from which it pulled that answer. And it is also showing the source document. See, do you provide virtual internship? Do you have job assistance? And do you provide virtual internship? And do you provide job canteen? So it will pull the relevant ones and it will answer the questions. You can say, okay, should I learn Power BI or Tableau, or let's say any question. Okay, so Let me ask this particular question. So again, I have it ready. I'm just going to copy paste. Should I learn Power BI or Tableau? Now, if you look at our CSV file, so Tableau, our answer is little different actually. See, let's say, okay, so Control F, Tableau. Actually, I want to give this particular answer, and looks like it generated answer on its own based on its own knowledge. So I want to say that look at my CSV file, and if the answer is present there, pull the answer from that. Don't try to make things up. Okay. The other problem that you will see with this is a concept of hallucination. So it is already hallucinating. Okay. See, do you have a JavaScript course? Now this question is not present in CSV file at all. And now it is saying, no, we do not have. Well, how can I say that? We don't know. The appropriate answer will be, I don't know, because the CSV file which I provided, it doesn't have any mention of JavaScript course. Maybe I have it, maybe I don't have it. And I've seen that if you execute again, sometimes it says, yes, we have a JavaScript course. See, now it is saying something else. So it just keeps on saying random things, which is bad. So I want to control that behavior. It is called hallucination. It will try to make things up on its own. I want to tell it that don't try to make things up. Use CSV file, and if you don't find answer there, just say don't know, I don't know. Okay. And in order to do that, you have to create something called a prompt template, and I covered prompt template in detail in that other video, where you are essentially giving a prompt, specific instruction that given the following context, generate answer based on the context only, and if the answer is not found, kindly state I don't know. Do not try to make things up. And what is the context and what is the question? Well, it is this. See, this is the question in this diagram. This diagram is very useful. This is the question and this is the context. The relevant document that you're pulling is a context, and this particular thing is a question. And you can provide this prompt template to a class called prompt template, and you will get this particular prompt. And then here you will provide one extra argument called chain whatever, and there you will provide this prompt. I don't want to remember the syntax, so I just copied it. And now when you say, do you have a JavaScript course? Okay, I think I've seen, by the way, that this Google Palm model sometimes just doesn't perform really well. Okay, now it is performing well. So I don't know. Okay, overall OpenAI models are much better, but Google Palm, since it is free, and maybe they will improve over a period of time. So majority of the time this still work okay. All right. So see, I don't know. You can say, do you know double sage? It should say no, I don't know. See, it's not hallucinating. You can say, do you have a plan of launching blockchain course? I'm asking questions which are not present in their CSV file. See, sometimes again it's just hallucinating. It's in future, I don't know. Okay, I mean, it's doing sentence completing. That's why you see see, it's doing sentence completion. You see how language model works. That's why you see this question mark here. If I move question mark here, it will say just I don't know. Okay, I think it's making sense now. Just try different sentences, folks. I'm going to provide this notebook, and you will see that it will try to pull the answer from the CSV file. Sometimes, as I said, since this model is not as great as OpenAI, sometimes it will not perform well, but majority of the time it does a pretty good job. So far we wrote the experimental code in the notebook. Now we are going to put a proper project structure and prepare ourselves for productionizing this thing, as well as we will write the Streamlit UI code. I created this directory called Code Basic Q&A, where I have kept the CSV file, the Jupyter Notebook, and the requirement.txt. I'm going to launch now PyCharm, which is a free community edition version software, basically Python editor by JetBrains. And when you launch it, you will get an option to open a folder. Right now, I already have another project, so it is showing me this. So I will go open, and I will open from C code directory. I will open the folder Code Basics Q&A. I will say OK, new window. And in that, it is asking me to configure the virtual environment. I'll say I don't want virtual environment. By the way, if you want virtual environment, you can use that as well. But I'm just going to use the plain default environment here. And here you can see the requirement.txt file. We have installed all the files. You can see CSV file and the Jupyter Notebook. Now I'm going to create a main Python file. So I will just call it main.py and we'll write our code here. So now we are starting a business of copy pasting. We have our notebook ready. So in that notebook, let's see, this is our notebook, correct? We will just copy paste things one by one. So here, the first step is this one, right? And you are seeing this error, by the way. Let me configure the Python interpreter. So I have 3.10. So I have configured that. And API key is something you don't keep it in your main code. You can keep that into your environment file. That is a standard industry practice. So the practice is you create a new file, you call it .env, and you create Google API key. You create this kind of variable and you keep your API key there. Okay, that's the standard practice. And to load this environment variable, you will use a module called .environment. Okay, so you are importing this load.environment variable and you will call this function. What this will do is it will go to .env file. It will read all the key and value pairs and it will set these things as a operating system environment variable so that you can access that later on using this. See, let me show you. So now when I say os.environment, it will actually get that particular key. And this is the key we can set here directly so that you don't have to hard code it here. Okay, I hope you understood what I just did. So this is a proper way of doing it. And I will keep the temperature variable to be 0.1 or maybe 0 because I don't want this thing to be very creative and kind of produce its own answer. It should do whatever we are asking it to do, basically read CSV file and provide the answers. Okay, what is the next step? Next step is to create embeddings and vector database. So let me copy paste that part here. Now here, I think we missed this one, loading the CSV file. Okay, and I will move all of these imports at the very beginning. Okay, this looks good. Instructor embedding, docs. Okay, what is docs? It is not docs, it's data, or maybe docs. We can call it docs. Okay, so I will call this docs. And folks, what I will do is I will not use VectorDB in memory because you already saw that creating vector database, which means executing this cell, takes around 1 minute time. I don't want to execute it every time when I launch my Streamlit UI. Therefore, I will save this vector database to a disk, okay, to a file. And for that reason, I need to create a function called create vector db. So the goal of this function will be create a vector database and serialize it to disk, so that the database is stored sort of like in a file system. Okay, so the vector database creation, I think this loader also is something we can move here. And instructor embedding, I will keep it outside because I will need to use that in different function as well. So let me keep this thing outside, and you can specify a model name, or I think it's okay if you don't specify model name. And once the vector database is created, you can save it to a file. There is a function called save local, which will save it to a local file, and that file will be phase index. It will actually create a directory. Okay, and later on I'll have to use this file path, so I will just say file path or database path. Okay, so vector db file path is this, and just use that here. So this will just create the vector database and save it to a disk. You can test this, by the way. If name is equal to underscore main, then let's test this much part first. Okay, so right click, run. It is going to take ever, by the way, because we know that creating this vector database is time consuming process. So go for a coffee break, come back, and hopefully it should be created. All right, we see a directory called face index here. So see, this is my vector database basically. So my vector database is created. Now I can write the rest of the code, and the rest of the code, for that I will give a function name as get QA chain, get question and answer chain. And here once again copy paste business. So whatever code we wrote, just let me copy paste it from the notebook. Okay, so see here you are loading the vector database from that file. Okay, so this line is new, so we are calling face.load local. Using that vector database file path, we are loading it, and the second argument that it expects is the embedding that you created. So that is the reason now you understand that embedding was created outside. And then retriever prompt template, this is all same. We need to import prompt template, by the way, so let me import it here. So import, and retrieval QA also. So retrieval QA I need to import. There was like a red line showing the error, and then you will just return the chain. So what happens now is when you say get QA chain, you get that chain, and then to that chain you can ask any question such as, do you provide internship, do you have EMI option, correct? And you can print that on console, and you can test this whole thing out by right clicking and running it. The benefit of creating vector database in advance is that you don't have to create it now every time, because it's a time consuming process, right? So vector database is something that you do one time, and then for question answering you just use it. And whenever my CSV file gets updated, that is the time I will create that database again. So you can see that it is providing you an answer. Yes, we provide virtual internship. No, we don't have any EMI option. You can try different questions. It's working okay. Now is the time to create Streamlit UI. I can write my Streamlit UI code right here, but I like to separate UI code from rest of the code. For that reason, I will create a new file called LangChain helper, and I will move all of this code. See, Control A, Control X, Control V. All of this code goes into LangChain helper. And here comes the UI code. So for UI, I have already installed Streamlit. You can import it. So you can say import Streamlit as st.title. What is title? Okay, code basics QA. I will include little icon. So I will say plant. Okay, and then there will be a text input for the question that a person will be asking, and that question you can take it here, and when they hit enter, it will come here. The flow will come here, and below that code basics QA button, you want to have a button basically which says create a knowledge base. Create knowledge base. So this is basically creating your vector database. Now, okay, let me just run and show it to you first so that you get an idea. And if someone presses that button, something happens. We'll look into that later, but let's create a skeleton code at least, and you can run that code from here by saying Streamlit run main.py, and it will launch the UI in a browser. See, it will look beautiful now. When you click a button or type in any question, nothing happens because this is just a skeleton. Now this create knowledge base button should be under some kind of admin privilege, under some kind of role based privileging system, so that only the admin or the data scientists have access to this. The normal website user, they will not have access to this. When they click on that ask question button, there will be a new button here. When they click on that new button which has a text ask question, it can show this UI, but this button should not be available to normal user. They should be just able to ask a question. But this is when a data scientist want to create a new vector database. Let's say we get new questions and questions. Now we need to recreate a database, right? For the new questions in our CSV file. That is when this button will be useful. Okay. Now from LangChain helper, I am going to import both the function that we wrote, right? Like, so create vector database and get QA chain. Let us test get QA chain function. So I will say chain is equal to get QA chain. And then to this chain, we will ask a question and we will get some response, and a response result will be the actual result. So I will say st.header. Okay, basically this is the answer you are getting, and you can say st.write. This is just a syntax of our Streamlit. This is how you put an answer below the question. Now one good thing about Streamlit is that you don't have to rerun that command. You can just click on rerun here and it will rerun that. Person is running, which means it's gonna take some time to load. Now let me put a question. Hooray, it is ready. It says ready and working. Let's try a few other questions. See, it's really working now and producing all the answers. Folks, we are done with our coding. All of this code is available, by the way. Check video description. You can download everything and practice it. This particular project is gonna look very good on your resume. If you want to build a career in generative AI and NLP and want to become data scientist, we have put a lot of effort in creating this video and project. So if you like it, you can give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. I mean, that is how you can pay back to for our work. Also remember, this entire project is on a real industry use case. Codebasic.io is a real e-learning company. We have 180,000 students, including free courses and paid courses. For paid courses, we have around 20,000 students. The website gets a lot of heavy traffic, and our Discord community has like 40,000 people. So it's a bustling community, and the problem that we try to solve is a real problem. Okay, so in the future, I will take this code and maybe integrate it on my website. For now, it is created just for your learning purpose. But remember, once again, it's a real project. If you have any question, post in the comment box below. Thank you very much for watching.